All right, we make start. I'd like to welcome everybody here. It's a great gathering of, I see family, I see friends, I see neighbours, I see returned post office workers, and I see people from the VR94 group, and Dominic and his people are here. But it's a great occasion like that, and before I go any further, I'd just like to thank a few people. I'd like to thank Dominic, who we'll be hearing from shortly, and Marion, who does a fantastic job in her free time. Dominic, I'd like to pay a tribute to and thanks to Margaret Griffin and the staff for the facility that they offered to us here. This is my 4th time here, and every time they always turn up, and thanks to her and the staff, and for the cup of tea and the biscuit as well. We'll try and get something stronger maybe the next time. So, without further ado, I'd just like to introduce you to Dominic, who's the Managing Director of Limerick Writers. He's been around since 2008. He'll fill you in on what's going on. All I can say is that he has published over 230 publications, which is incredible, you know.
Thanks very much. And just to reiterate what Tom said, you're all very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here and to gather in the Dooradoyle Library for the launch of Sense of Place, a powerful new novel by Limerick writer Tom McElligott, to be officially launched tonight by author, workshop facilitator, and a good friend of ours, Madge O'Callaghan. The book marks an important moment for us at the Limerick Writers Centre because it appears under our new imprint, Savoy Editions, a dedicated home for genre and literary fiction, where we champion writers who push boundaries, challenge form, and explore the deeper questions of what it means to be human. For over 18 years now, the Centre has nurtured poets, storytellers, memoirists, and historians. Savoy Editions now extends that mission into the wider imaginative landscape of the novel. I'm also very proud to say that Tom's book is the 214th title we have published between our 3 imprints: Revival Press for poetry, LWC Publishing for non-fiction, and now Savoy Editions for fiction. I've known Tom since the early days of the Limerick Writers Centre, where he attended our monthly peer critique writing group. His writing journey has taken him from short stories, poetry, a novella, and now his debut full-length novel. His path has been one of dedication, community, and persistence, and now he holds the results in his hands. Sense of Place is a perfect example of the kind of work we want to publish through Savoy Editions. Tom's story begins with a rain-soaked bridge and a chance encounter, but quickly opens up into something far more layered. Running through the novel is the artist's pursuits of what Patrick Kavanagh called the secret sign, that elusive shimmer that tells us something of great significance is stirring beneath the surface. Tom has captured that shimmer. His novel listens closely to the overlooked, honours the wounded, and finds meaning in the unlikeliest of places. At the Limerick Writers Centre, our work has always been about community, creativity, and giving writers the support they need to bring their stories into the world. With Savoy Editions, we are proud to expand that work into new territory. I'm proud that Tom McElligott's Sense of Place is among our first steps on that path. Thank you all again for being here, for supporting local writing, and for helping us continue this work. So now I'd like to hand you over to Madge O'Callaghan, who will officially launch Sense of Place. Thank you.
How are you doing? So I'd like to welcome you as well. So that's 3 welcomes you've got this evening. It's terrific. Do you know what? When the last time I met Tom for a cup of coffee, I said, "That's it, Tom. I'm not meeting you again." Every time we sit down together, the stories start, and we end up in what was supposed to be a quick cup of coffee. 3 or 4 hours later, kind of, I'm sure you're wondering where he is half the time now. It's all right. It's quite safe. It's quite safe. And you know, it's great because that's what we're doing. We're just telling stories, you know, stories about our own lives, about people in our lives, about things that happened to people we know, things that happen to other people that maybe we don't know as well. So it's great. It's great to meet up with them and to do that. And I'm delighted to be here tonight to do that. To tell you the truth, I'm delighted to be anywhere tonight. Because, I spent the day in the hospital, in the Nina Hospital, in the medical assessment unit, and I thought I wouldn't make it here tonight. But I was being prodded and poked, you know, by nurses and doctors all day, and then they let me go with a new prescription and a cup of tea and a sandwich. But for those of you, I'm just making excuses for myself. It's the drugs. If there's anything wrong to that. For those of you who wonder about storytelling, I've just told you a story, haven't I?
Yeah.
From my time in the hospital. Did any of you tell any stories today? Did you? Hands up if you told a story today. Go on, don't be shy. Yeah, you told a story. I bet you did. Yeah, I bet you told a story. Yes. I bet you told a story as well. Did you tell a story today? No, you didn't tell a story. Well, you see, I think, you know, I told you a story about me in the preceding paragraph there. And Dominic could tell you a story as well about why he's on a crutch tonight as well, if you asked him. People are mad for stories. They're not nosy, you know. We're just curious. It's natural curiosity for stories. And our lives are filled with stories. From the minute we get up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night, it's all about stories, you know, and storytelling. You hear stories all the time. Stories about people who've achieved wondrous things. Stories about other people who've achieved notoriety. And we all love a good story. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be bothered scrolling through our phones or watching the news or going to the cinema. And while I was at the hospital today, a couple sat opposite me in the waiting area and they were discussing what a sleevine was. Now, do you know what story that is? See, now, you know that story. So he was discreetly asking Google, what does sleevine mean, right? And Google wasn't giving him the answer that he wanted. So Google didn't understand what a sleevine was. Now, I was sitting there and I wondered, should I go over and tell him that I knew what a sleevine was? But anyway, then I got into the car on the way home, and what are they doing? They're talking about Mary Lou in the Dáil yesterday, and talking about a sleevine, and discussing whether there was an H in the word sleevine or not, whether it was sleevine or sleevine. Could I have a show of hands on this? Is it sleevine or sleevine? We'll go for the first one. Sleevine. Many people think it's sleevine. Is it sleevine? The H? Sleevine. Okay. So, and you see, where I grew up, and the same place as Mary Lou grew up, it was sleevine. So anyway, it's whatever it is, it made a great story, didn't it? Because we all listened to it, we all heard it, and it's going to be replayed over and over again. I bet you if you listen to playback on RTE on Saturday, it'll be on again about the sleep. Everybody's getting a great kick out of it, you know. So now, do you know, and as I said, we all tell stories. Some are sad and some are not so sad. I laughed when I heard about Tom's book. Now this, I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, because we have beggars in my family. My sister, who used a wheelchair for the last few years of her life, was taken up to the Swords shopping centre, I think it's called the Pavilions in Swords, by her daughter. And she said, I'll just sit outside the shop here now while you go in. And her daughter went into the shop, and Angela's sitting there with her in the wheelchair, drinking a cup of tea, and she kind of just enjoying the sunshine. And the next thing, she's sitting there singing Patsy Cline, Crazy, and somebody came over and put €2 into her. She was disgusted. She said, was my singing only worth €2? So, you know, we have a history of begging in my family now based on Angela's experience. Anyway, but you know, I was delighted too that I could really relate to Tom's character in this story. Because I met my first husband. I say my first husband because I didn't meet a second one, I'm a widow. But I met my first husband when he was running a shelter for homeless men, mostly winos and, you know, people of the street in Dublin. And so I was quite used to being around homeless people at that time as well, and meeting the characters, you know. And I remember, it really reminded me of the different people that I met in Dublin at that time. people who had been excluded from their families for various reasons, or they'd excluded themselves from their families because of misunderstandings and all sorts of stuff. I remember there was one guy with a beard down to his waist, Lanky Tom they called him, and Lanky Tom used to sell newspapers at a corner of Marion Square, and he was actually, strangely enough, he was actually had been a school teacher and had fallen on hard times. And there's another guy, Killybegs Jimmy, he's got nicknames, Killybegs Jimmy, and Killybegs Jimmy had been thrown out by his family at the age of 14 and told to make his own way. And he never lost the accent even years and years later. And then there was a Fraulein, we used to call him, teasing him. But his name was Mossy Fraulein. And he used to sing the song Fraulein when he had a few jars on him. But they were all real people, this is my point, that they weren't just beggars or drunks. They were all real, interesting people when you got to speak to them. And that's what Tom has done in this book. He's actually gone behind the person. We all see beggars in the street every day of the week. Sometimes we don't give them a second thought. Other times we kind of think, God, you might feel sorry for them or wonder about the backstory. But what Tom has done is what writers do. He's gone behind that. He's delved into the story. He's delved into the life of the person that he envisaged on the street, and he's written about that life, and he's done this very well. I was just thinking as well, a few years ago we did a project where I live with the school children, where we got them to go, the 4th, 5th and 6th class, we got them to go out to the adults in the community and find the stories that were in the community, the myths and the legends that were in the community. And the variety of stories that came back was amazing. Now the children were getting the stories from the older people. So we had loads of different versions of the same story, but the kernel of the story was exactly the same as we have here. There's the central character was always the same in the stories. And the central character in this story is somebody who has had a life very like any of our own lives, just has fallen on hard times as well. Okay. So I just wanted to say as well that I've already said we said we'll see the beggars in the street and we pass them by. Tom has mentioned, has gone through all of these events as well. People with mental health issues, people with alcoholism, addiction, specifically alcoholism. And he uses words and actions to reveal the elements and images of a story. He gets the story across to us by giving us the picture of this man who was down in his luck. I'm delighted to be launching this book here tonight, and so Tom is going to read to you from his book. Can I just ask you to give a warm welcome, another welcome, for Tom McElligott.
Thanks very much, Madge. How do you beat that? Just one little thing of Joe Brother, we don't imagine, like when she said that it took us 3 or 4 hours to get over a cup of coffee, I think you know why. But, one of the, Madge is very accomplished, and I just thought I'd mention that she was a gold winner in the radio documentary in New York, which is an incredible achievement really. And she's involved with an awful lot of creative writing, like creative writing group in Shannon. And anybody like myself that needs any maybe help or advice or whichever, she's always there. Thanks, Madge.
Thanks, Tom.
So, to go to I remember on the funny bit that last year when I was here, I said that I'm working on something at the moment, and here we go, a good sense of place. But with writing, for me, it's a personal thing. It's a thing that can be very satisfying. It can be frustrating. Trying to get the end result can sometimes put you off a bit, but really I think that there's the focus on the end game is really where you're at. And I quoted something at Dylan's here from V94. One time that in frustration, maybe not in this case, that James Joyce was asked how was his morning's work, and he turned and Riley said that I had a great morning indeed. I got 4 words. I'm saying that when you get stuck with the writer's block or whichever, that there's always maybe an out for it. But to go back to a sense of place, and Dominic touched on it, somebody asked me, like, where did you get this notional idea from? And I was on my way home from Cork a long time ago, and I was walking across Borough Bridge, and I saw this man. It was an awful evening. He was drowned to the skin, sitting on a piece of cardboard, and he tendered his cup. And I stopped for a minute, only a minute, and we had chatted for a minute or two, and he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Limerick." And he said, "Do you know Sarsfield Barracks?" I said, "I do." And he said, "I was a soldier there for many years, happy years." And I said, "Well, that's good to hear." But he said, after that, everything went wrong. And I left him and I went on. I never saw him again. But about a week or two later, it kind of struck me that maybe this is a short story in that or whichever. And I put pen to paper, or computers, you might say. And I started to write this. And then over the years, it developed into a novel. And that's where we are with that. So that, like I always say, like from a writer's point of view, the pleasure for a writer, the pleasure is seeing those who read it enjoy it. And I think there's no other show and tone on that. So I'll read a couple of short pieces from it, without giving away any story. If we can do that. The first piece it's the homeless part of it. Seniority of pitch created argument among some beggars. The might of a crashing fist or flailing boot established sense of possession without contradiction if ownership was disputed. He explained how, in a contentious rumpus between beggars, words of threatening might be exchanged. This explained the scabby nature of recent wound on the beggar's face. He sat there in a fidgety mood, sticking matted tufts of his hair were clasped to his head that could have once carried a groomed dark thatch. He picked at his matted hair like a grub-searching sparrow. His weather-beaten face was countenance with red purple veined cheeks. Pox of darker puce indentations advertised his bulbous nose that pointed in a 1:10 direction. A plethora of scars and abrasions remained from heated cuts as a reminder of old injuring incursions on him, while a couple of mid-yellow coloured broken teeth were all that he had left to offer. His teeth, the ones he had left, stuck out from his magenta-coloured pursed lips. On his large frame he was poorly dressed in a clapped-out used overcoat with torn pockets. They flapped their second-hand condition like the tattered wares of a rag and bone man. His herringbone trousers hung over on his runners in unkept wrinkles that skirted the footpad below his heels, acting as unofficial pad sweepers. Battered shoes had holes that failed to keep him on any worthwhile position of standing. In his mouth, he clenched a cigarette, allowing smoke to waft up, squeezing his eyes away from it. The stench of old man's pee was strong. I should say that this was one of the occasions when he would have met the tramp and they were in discussion. They had good and bad ones. "Am I losing you? Perhaps I'm not going quickly enough for you," he said. The mystery of purpose intrigued me. The look from his brown eyes was explicit in its sad offering. He set his gaze upon me to see if I would offer a further contribution. His strategy worked. I tendered to his hotel plastic cup, bade him good luck, and left. Looking back at him in his huddled hump, he waved his arm, offering me a thumbs up as a reward for my generosity. We had connected, and I was glad. That would have been in the early stage. It was like a kind of get-to-know situation. And this guy was a very deep guy, hard to get, and I won't say any more than that. I might just move on to a short piece at the end. He had gone through life with difficulties and the rest of it, and very late in the book here, I'll just read this short piece, I think, which portrays the situation that might have been in it. "Not proving myself by wishing in denial, I should have proved myself by doing right by you. No strength or will from hidden tears to share with you. No time remaining to offer a softer side of me gone by. Leaving me in mind with a contorted pain of what should have been. I remain without you now, in a tangled mire of regret, with love loss and longing for you to have been a greater part of my life, in sorrow that had been but a small part of yours." So I let you think about that, and you can, more or less plot on that. I haven't really much more to say, only thank you all. There is one thing I have to say. It's like going back to last year again. I'm working on something at the moment, but you'll be glad to hear. I know what you're saying, here he goes again. You won't have to put your hands in your pockets. So that Margaret Griffin, the manager of the library, who's been very good here, said to me, 12 months ago, "You paint, don't you?" And I said, "I do, yeah." But I said, "I only paint for fun, paint for myself, not a trained painter or artist." And she said, "Would you exhibit your painting?" I said, "I wouldn't. All I know it does." And so I'll put you down for the 1st of October. But to make a long story short, we'll have a painting exhibition here on the 1st of October. And the paintings are of oils. I'm diversified away from the writing, maybe I shouldn't do that. They're in oils, they're in watercolours, they're in charcoal, they're abstracts, they're portraits, they're writing, they're funnies and all that. But they may be of interest, so that if you'd like, I'll give you a visit maybe in mid-October, before October, and you can have a look. It'll run for 3 or 4 weeks. So that that's that side of it. Now, there's just...
a glass of wine at that launch, John.
As common going around in the post office, if any incident happened, the superintendents would always say, is insobriety suspected in this case? So, but just to finish, I have one more thank you, and that's to Alice here, my wife. Don't forget you got your own applause. But no, seriously, Alice has been around writing for a long time, and in the critiquing, and in the suggesting and the changing and the rest of it, but she has one special word, a cute cabin woman, of course, and the word is consider. And if I'm kind of stuck with it, I thought that it doesn't look right, she'd read it and she said, "Would you consider taking that out, or putting this in, or changing that, or changing this?" And she's very diplomatic, I have to say that. But in any case, really down the years, that her help and her dedication to my writing, her writing as well, has got us where we are today with the launch of this book, and I thank you graciously. So there we go.
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
Buy 2, please.
Again, welcome tonight, and thanks very much for turning up, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed Madge. Madge is always good. So I think there we have it. Thanks again.